We've previously discussed the idea of kinyan chatzir, which means that your property, person's property, has the ability to acquire things that end up there on the owner's behalf. And we spoke about how, therefore, if you find something in your house, even if it's something that has no siman, and it would be something that you would be able to keep, if it was found after Yeush, being that it's in your house, and your house acquired it on your behalf before Yeush, so therefore, then would be a Munachat Sheyav Elio. And we also discussed how things that are found in a shul don't have the din of kinyan chatzir because in yad lahektish, in chatzir lahektish, a shul does not have the din of kinyan chatzir, and therefore something that's found in a shul does not automatically necessarily belong to the shul. Each of these scenarios is subject to machlekes, and there are many details. But just to briefly recap what we discussed in previous year. In Seif Yud, which is where we're holding, the Alter Rebbe tells us more details regarding kinyan chatzir that are very, very important. So Seif Yud, v'afilu imitzon beveis chaveri, even if somebody found money in someone else's house, im hu bayis sherabim nichnosim v'yetzin bay, if it's a house where many people are constantly going in and out, harihin shaloi, v'nitzarich litna lebalabayis. If you find money in someone else's house, if it's a house that many people are often going in and out, you can keep it, and it does not have to be given to the balabayas. Why not? Because even if the balabayas dropped the money, he was already miyash, and it already became hefker. So what if it became hefker? It was dropped in his house, so his house should be kainet for him because chatzer shaladim kainalei, even shalei midaite. A person's chatzer, a person's house is kainet things on his behalf. Nevertheless, in this case, kinyan chatzer doesn't help. Why not? Ein chatzer kainalei dvar hefker el davar haasid lehimatzilei im leyakti menu acher. Your chatzer is only kainet things for you, something that you are eventually going to find, if no one else finds it first. But something that you yourself are never going to find. Aval mois shehem dvarim ktanim. But money, coins, something small, it's likely that you're never going to find it. And the owner is not relying at all on his chatzir to guard this money for him, these coins for him. Excuse me. A person's chatzir is only kind on his behalf if it is a chatzir hamishtameres, if it is a chatzir that is guarding what is inside it, because it is surrounded by mechitzas, by fences. Now, if we read this sif carefully, you see that the Alter Rebbe has put together 2 or 3 different reasons why kinyan chatzir doesn't work. And in the next sif, we're going to see a nafkamina between these reasons and why we need various different reasons. But before that, let's just try to break down this sif and see what the Alter Rebbe is telling us here. First of all, let's start with a Mishnah. Mishnah is in Sechta Vav Mציאה Daf Chaf Hei Amud Beis. It's a short Mishnah. Mishnah tells us like this: Matzah begala v'kaisel yashan, harei elu shalei. Somebody finds a lost object in a gal, which is a pile of stones, of a kaisel yashin in an old wall, harei lo shalai. It, you can keep it. How come you can keep it? So the Gemara tells us, because you could say it was there from the Amorium. Even before Yidden lived in Eretz Yisrael, Amorium lived in Eretz Yisrael, so I found it on a wall. It happens to be on your property, but it doesn't mean it's yours. Could have been there for a long time. So, okay, the Gemara asks, why are you assuming it's from the Amorium? Could have been only Amorium hide things in walls. Yidden don't hide things in walls. So you see, it's very rusty. It was there for a very long time. Okay, the Shasich Tvei. So on the next Talmud, Taisvus asks, okay, it's all very nice. You could say that it's a Miriam, it's very rusty, whatever. But what about in Chatzar? You found on someone else's property. His property is kindness for him. So says Taisvus, Ein Chatzar kaina b'davar sheyach Elias shelo yimtze'enu lo'yolo. A Chatzar does not acquire things on your behalf if it's something that it's likely that you're never going to find it. And then later, Taisus say specifically about coins, okay, this is what the Alter Rebbe tells us here, that mois is a davar katan she yacheliya shalei matzaliyela. So let's look back at the Alter Rebbe inside. Number one, you find something in someone's house, you don't have to give it. You don't have to give it to the balabais. Why? First of all, he was miyash. Why was he miyash? Because it's a house where there are a lot of people going in and out, and therefore it's a chatzar she'ena mishtameres. So he was miyash. Even though he was miyash, how come his chatzar is not kained back for him? Because ein chatzir kained dvar hefker el davar ha'asad lehi matzalei imli aktimenu acher. It's only going to be kained for him if it's something that you're eventually going to find. But something that is so small that you're not eventually going to find, ein daite semechas klal chatzir shetishmer oisam lei. You're never going to find it, and therefore you're not relying on your chutzner to be kaina it for you. Now, this is the reason of Taisvis that Moshe Dvarim Ktanim Yachali Shalei Matzah Leilam, something that is so small that you're never going to find your chutzner is not kaina it for you. But Taisvis didn't tell us why. The Alter Rebbe is telling us why, because your chutzner only works if you're relying on it for it to work for you. The chutzner, only chutzner mishum chutzner is an extension of you. So if you want to be kaina, then you can use your chutzner to be kaina for you. But if you're not at all relying on your chutzner, the chutzner cannot be kaina for you if it's something that never and will never cross your mind. Now, this also comes from the Mordechai over there in Bav Metziah. This idea of ein daite semechas. Some Achreinim learn some machlekes, the Taisus and the Mordechai and the Mukha Yosef and other Shainim, and the Ramaz Lashon in Chesed Mishpat the Rish Samachas is a little bit difficult, and Achreinim struggle with it, and the Nesivus Hamishpat has a little bit of an erichas of this, but eventually he also says that it must be that the Ramaz learned Taisus and the Mordechai are not arguing, and you see that the Alter Rebbe says very similar. He puts the Taisus and the Mordechai together. Why is something that you're never going to find your chutzner is not kind of for you because you're not relying on your chutzner. Yeah. So in Sifir Aleph, Alter Rebbe continues based on this. Umitamze, and because of this reason, that the second reason, that something that is so small that you're never going to find, or that for another reason you're never going to find, like we saw in the Mishnah, because it's buried in a wall, because it's buried in a pile of stones, it's buried 6 feet under the ground, you're never going to find it. Your chutzner is not kainit for you. Afilu ein rabim mitzuim bebayazeh. Even if it's not a house where a lot of people are constantly coming and going, ein chatzir kainu lemoish nimtzu bebesi. A person's chatzir is not kainu for him money that is found in his house. V'harei shal maitzon im yadua she'ein shal balabais. Then, if you know that it does not belong to the balabais, then you could keep it. But if you don't know, then you assume that something that is found in a house belongs to the owner of the house. And a balabayas is not misyayish from something that he loses in his house. So he thinks eventually I'll find it. Since it is in Sifid Aleph, remember we're talking about not a house where people are constantly coming and going. We're talking about a regular house where the doors closed. People, if they come in, they knock first and let them in, and one person at a time. But it's not a place that is a public thoroughfare where people are constantly coming and going. Where in that case, if it's a public thoroughfare where people are constantly coming and going, then even if you know that it comes to the balabais, you can keep it because he's miyayish and his chutzner is not kainet for him. In this case, he is not miyayish, and therefore you don't need the chutzner to be kainet for him. He never lost it. It's still in his house. The same thing applies if you find something in a store. Teva is the counter, or here the translated as the showcase, and in words, somebody a privately owned store has a private business, so the owner, everything there is his own personal possessions. So things that are found from behind the counter, where only the store owner is, so that's not a place that's open to the public. So anything that's found there, you can't just keep it. And the same thing applies. And a shulchan is a money lender. If it's from behind the counter, so anything that's there. Excuse me for a second. About that. Anything that's behind the counter cannot be kept. Something that is in front of the counter. So that is a place where people come in from the street. People are constantly coming and going. So you can keep it. Okay. That's Sif Yud and Yud Aleph. Hopefully it's clear. We're going to continue Sif Yud Beis and on. And we're going to try to move through them a little bit more quickly because the fundamental principles behind the next couple of Sifim we already discussed in the previous year, specifically when we learned Sif Beis. Kolze, Sif Yud Beis. Kolze, Kashamatza Derech Nefila. This all applies when something was found in a manner that indicates they fell. But something that was found in a way that it was indicated that it was placed there. Something that you could see that it was placed there on purpose. Whether it's money or other objects, whether they have a simon, whether they don't have a simon. So something that is found. It's clearly it was placed there, and it was placed b'makim hamishtamer lagamri, something that was placed in a safe place. Even if it has no simon, don't touch it. What happened to Hashavas Aveidah? It's not an Aveidah. Even if it's in a public place, but it's a private place. with it, meaning it's not in on private property, but it's in the public, it's in the street, but it's in a safe place. It's hidden from public view. It's hidden in an ashpa, which is a garbage dump, in a Rosh Hashanah. So even though it's in Rosh Hashanah, but it's in an ashpa, so it's in a place that is relatively hidden from public view. And it's hard to understand this in a contemporary setting, but maybe more like not a garbage dump, a landfill. That's not normally cleared out, because if it's something that's normally cleared out, something that's in the garbage is not it's not loyiga, but it's garbage. Aveidah midas, you throw it out. But something that's placed there that's clearly hidden. I would say gal shalavanu because in yashan shenafal, something that's hidden under a pile of stones from an old wall that fell. Again, it didn't fall there; it was placed there. It's in the public, but it's in a safe place. If it's in a place where most of the passerby are yidden, then you should not touch it. This is not an Aveidah that one is commanded to return, since it was placed there with the knowledge and intentionally by the owner. And it's possible, it's likely that they still didn't forget about it. They left it there, they kept it there for a certain amount of time until they come back. But if it's clear that it was forgotten, for example, money that became rusty, yes, it may have been placed here derech hanacha, and it may have been placed here on purpose, but the money is already rusty. They're not coming back for it anymore. They forgot where they put it. You can keep it even if it has a simon. Why? Because they're not counting on their miyash. Why are they miyash? Why are they not thinking about Hashavas Aveidah? Somebody's going to find the Hashavas Aveidah. They're not. They think that no one's going to find it. Remember, I hid it. I don't remember where I hid it. When I hid it, I'm not. You're not counting on somebody finding it. So if you're not counting on somebody finding it, you're miyash, and therefore one is allowed to keep it even if it has no simon. Bamed v'remamurim kashatmunim b'makim paretz v'goli. If it is hidden in a public place. But if it is on someone else's property, then you assume that it was hidden by the balabais. Then you should not touch them, even if it already became rusty. Because a person might bury something in their backyard for a long, long time, even until it gets rusty. But you're not burying something in a public like construction site for a long time until it gets rusty. You might hide it there temporarily, but if it's already rusty, then whoever left it there forgot about it. Even when one finds something that is not hidden, in other words, it's not for sure derech hanacha. Something that is hidden is derech hanacha, was placed there. Something that is not, it's a suffix. If it's derech hanacha, derech nefila, again, as we discussed all this already when we learned Seif base. Hareza lo yigabe. Should not touch it. Imhu makim hamishtamer. Still, even if it's suffix hanacha, suffix nefila, if it's in a private place, makim hamishtamer, afilu hu makim hefker, rakshu makim tsanua, she'ein derech bnei adam leilach sham klal, as long as it's a private place, even though it's not a private property, but it's a quiet place and a public property, then it should not be touched. Even if it's something that has a simon, so it has a simon, but it's in a makim tsanua, but you're not sure it's a suffix. Maybe it wasn't placed here on purpose. Maybe it was dropped here. So I think okay, I'll do a mitzvah Hashavas Aveidah. You're not allowed to do it. Kishema hitzniu balein, because you have a suffix, maybe it was dropped here, but you also have a suffix, maybe it was placed here on purpose. So now you're going to take and start doing a Hashavas Aveidah. So instead of the person coming back to get it from where they left it, now they have to run around and find you. First of all, maybe they're not even going to. The halacha is, as we'll learn, you have to do your best to announce it as much as to announce an Aveidah as much as possible. But there's always a possibility that the owner is not going to hear about it. And even if they hear about it, so now they're going to have to run after you to get it back. And that is should not be done. However, if you did pick it up, but you're still there, so put it back. But if you picked it up and then took it home, and then found out that that was not the correct thing to do, then you can't bring it back. Because it could be that in the meantime, the owners came and they saw that it was gone, and they're not going to go look there again. They already know that it's gone. And if you put it back in the same place, then they are now going to lose their whatever it was that they left there. Ella im yesh behem siman yachris. If it has a siman, now you can do Hashavas Aveidah and announce that you found an Aveidah and return it al pi simanim. In ein bahem siman, and if it has no siman, yehimunach at sheyavei Eliyahu, it has no siman, being that it came into your rishos before Yehosh. And lacha is yehimunach at sheyavei Eliyahu. You have to leave it aside until Eliyahu Navi comes and will tell us who it belongs to. V'la yitleim le'atzmei. Cannot keep it for yourself. You can't keep it for yourself because it came into your possession before Yehosh, or at most it's a suffix if it was before Yehosh, and as we discussed previously, even suffix Yehosh is asr. Bamed dvarim amurim kashem b'makom hamishtamer legamri she'ein zo aveidah shechayav b'ashavasa. If you found something, even if it was suffix hanacha, suffix nefila, but it was found in a place that's mishtamer lagamri. She'ein zo aveidah shechayav b'ashavasa. Something that's found in a makom hamishtamer is not an aveidah that you are obligated to return. Avalim etzam b'makom she'ein mishtamer lagamri. But if you found it in a place that is not completely secure, again, acheri agadar basader, b'shvilin shebasadis. If it was behind the fence in a field or on the paths in the field, so it's not a public. It's not in the middle of whatever 16th Avenue, but it's not exactly a secure place. So it's somewhat safe. It's not. It's not something that you're going to leave there. You're going to come back 5 minutes later. It's going to be gone. But it's not exactly something that you if you want it to stay secure, you leave it there for a long time. So something that is found suffix hanacha, suffix nefila in a place that is suffix mishtamer, then if it has a siman, then you do have a mitzvah of Hashavas Aveidah. Sorry, I said before suffix hanacha, even if it's vaday hinayach, even something that was for sure placed here, it was clearly placed here, it didn't fall here, but it's a place that's suffix mishtamer. Suffix mishtamer, you have a mitzvah of Hashavas Aveidah and take it. If it has no siman, then don't take it. Afilu suffix hinayach. Even if it was, if it's a suffix, if it was placed there, shakivin shemakan hamashtamer k'tzas after she's nearby love, lefisham yad yeshuv lekachta v'loyim. So since it is a place that is somewhat mishtamer, so there's a possibility that it was left here on purpose. So there's a possibility it was left here on purpose. There's a possibility that it was left here on purpose and then forgotten. So it's something that has a siman. So it's a better chance of getting back to the owner if you take it and performing Hashavas Aveidah. But if it's something that has no siman, you can't do Hashavas Aveidah. You can't return it. So better to leave it. Better to leave it because there is always the possibility that they left it here and they are going to come back and get it. And as mentioned before, if you picked it up and didn't yet take it home, Put it back. You can't do a Hashavas Aveidah with. You can't do something that has no siman. Either you keep it if it was after Yerush or it was before Yerush. The halacha is Yemunach Hashayav Eliyahu, unless like the author mentioned in Seif in the unlikely scenarios the owner shows up with Aiden. But generally, there is no possibility of doing Hashavas Aveidah with something that has no siman. And if you did bring it home, and for the reason that was explained earlier, that even Safik Yerush is it cannot be kept. Now, earlier we said, even if it's something that it's Vadei Hinayach, if it has no siman, you could do a Shabbos Aveidah. You shouldn't touch it. If it's something that's Vadei Hinayach, one of the simanim, something that is a siman, is you can there are various different types of simanim. One of them is siman in the makib. You can say, I found an Aveidah, and the person can come and give a siman, I lost an Aveidah in this place. So something that was placed here intentionally, you have a makim as a siman. The answer is, it could be, gazalis are baby doves that are tied together. So they obviously don't stay in one place. Their wings are tied together. They can't fly, but they can hop around. Aveidah misyayish mehen shesever sheyidadim mimakim sheshachan sham ve'ein loy bahem siman. You don't have another siman in them because they're tied together, as Alter Rebbe says, they're tied together by their wings in a manner that everybody ties in those days. The Gemara says over there, in Bab Mציאה Daf Chafei, again, we discussed this earlier, in Seif, everybody ties together their goizales, their baby doves, in this manner. So that's not a simon. The only simon is where they were. But a person who leaves their goizales in a certain place is not relying on using the makim as a simon because they can always hop away. So that is something that could be derech hinayach. It was placed here, but it has no simon whatsoever. Even the place where it was is not a simon. But besides for this very specific, specific example, something that is derech hinayach, if it was placed somewhere, so the place where it was is a siman, and therefore, if it was found in a place that is suffik mishtamer, then you should take it and do Hashavas Aveidah. Seif Tesvav. So if something was found in a place that is not mishtamer, that is not secure at all, so then there's a regular case of Hashavas Aveidah. Find something in the street, in a public place, with makom she'ein mishtamer klal, it has a siman, take it and be machers and do Hashavas Aveidah. If it has no siman, reihu shaloi, then you can keep it. Afilu hu vadai hinayach, even if it was clearly placed here in a Rishus Harabim, in a makom she'ein mishtamer, somebody was carrying a very heavy load, and they put down what was too heavy for them to carry in Rosh Hashanah, so it's not lost. It was placed there on purpose. Because he knows that he unloaded a little bit. When he was Messiah, she left something on the street in a public place, you know you're not getting it back. But if it's something that it's possible that the owner does not realize that it was dropped until after it came into the possession of whoever found it, which is also something that we discussed earlier. We'll do one more sif. Something where you could be toila that you could assume that it was forgotten. Something that was placed here intentionally. Even if maybe they only put it down temporarily and they're going to come back and get it, but they put it down in a makim she'enim mishtamer klau, a completely insecure place. Even if it has a simon, you can keep it. Since the owner intentionally left it in a place that is not mishtamer at all and walked off, if he definitely did it with the intention that if someone else comes and takes it, let them take it. It's as if he was explicitly miyayish and made it hefker. And this is not an Aveidah that we are obligated to return. Shedemar asher tevad v'loy hama'amid b'daite. Asher the Torah says, should return. This is what you should do to any Aveidah, any lost object that belongs to your fellow, asher tevad mimenu, which is lost. Asher tevad means it got lost, not it was made to be lost on purpose. Vim hu safek hinayach v'yash beisimen, neitel machers. If it is a suffix, if it was placed here intentionally, and it is something that has a simon, then then it should be taken and announce that it was found in order to fulfill the mitzvah of Hashavas Aveidah, and we will stop here for today.